until whatever the quest would lead them happened. And so they go on, relentlessly, until they saw the gleaming roofs of Jerusalem. They arrive undoubtedly expecting to find banners or music or some sort of celebration. Now, after months of traveling, that this would still be a huge celebration in Jerusalem, for their new king had been born. But instead, everything they see seems as if nothing has changed at all. As if the people in Jerusalem didn't have a clue about the light, the star, that they, the Magi from the east, had seen. The caravan found its way then to the king's extravagant palace, and they come into the presence of King Herod, and they say, "Where is the one who's been born King of the Jews?" What were they thinking? They're talking to King Herod, whose reputation must not have made its way into Arabia, into Persia, because all the locals wondered what this man who had become more cruel with his age, who had been on the throne now for 35 years as the cruel oppressor, oppressing his own people, he had become more paranoid as he grew old. And so there they were, these strangers, asking this spiteful, suspicious king of Israel where the king of the Jews had been born. Why do you ask such a question to me, the king? Herod must have wondered. Why, we saw his star when it rose, and we've come to worship him, the Magi respond. Well, you can imagine how quickly word spread through the great city that day. These strange-looking Gentiles, speaking different languages, different skin, different clothing, these workers of magical arts, had come to worship the newborn king of the Jews? What in the world could they be talking about? Was someone trying to lead a revolution against Herod? Herod needed to know where his enemy was hiding, so he summons the seminary professors, the best scholars, and he asks them, "Now where is it that this Messiah is to be born?" And then, to the surprise of the Magi, they find out they had missed the most important text of all. And the seminary professors say it's been written, "But you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for out of you will come a ruler who will be the shepherd of his people Israel." How could they have missed it? They were off by 6 miles. It wasn't in Jerusalem. It was in Bethlehem that this king had been born. Now, isn't it something that the religious scholars, the most devout Hebrews, when they hear of this news, stay home? Isn't it amazing that this paranoid King Herod doesn't send along a spy or two? Isn't it incredible that the only ones who make the short 6-mile journey from Jerusalem to Bethlehem are the non-believing, astronomy practicing Gentiles, these men who looked and sounded nothing like the chosen people of Israel? Would God welcome such Gentiles into his kingdom? That's what happened. By the time they got to Bethlehem, it was night, and then there it was again. Now, months later, this same light they had seen that night long ago suddenly reappeared. The same strange light in the sky, this unique star, now suddenly reappears over Bethlehem, telling them they were right. They understood the message of the sky correctly. He is born, the divine Christ child, and we are in his hometown. So they start asking around town, At the inn, perhaps, the only business that would have been open after dark. Where is the king? And the innkeeper looks at them puzzled. And he says to this band of strangers, no one here knows about any king. I do remember months ago, there were a lot of bright lights. It was big news. The shepherds ran in from the hills, they sang, and they ran back. Some people said they heard angels singing. And there was this young couple. The place here was full. I gave them a spot out in the barn. I think his name was Joseph. And if I'm remembering right, her name was Mary when they registered. I'm pretty sure that, yes, that night they had a baby boy. How could I have forgotten? A boy born in this barn. But they had this baby, and then they went back to Jerusalem to have him dedicated at the temple, and then lo and behold, they came back. I guess they didn't have any place to live in Jerusalem. They had no money, this young girl, this carpenter with no job. And as a matter of fact, if you would like to see them, if you go down about 3 streets and turn to the right, there, the first house you'll see on the right is where they're renting. You could go see them there. And if you find a king, let me know. I'm going to bed. So the caravan of camels and their riders pulls up outside the house. The sound of strange voices and the smell of camels startle Joseph. But being trained in hospitality, he goes to the door and he asks them, what do you want? He can see them quite well in the light of this really bright star shining over his house. He thinks, I haven't seen a light like that, a star that bright, for a long time. The Arabs, schooled in Hebrew, tell Joseph why they've come all this way, 906 miles, but who's counting? And they would like to see the God King who is in his house. No doubt the Arabs and the Persians whispered among each other in their own languages so Joseph wouldn't understand them. What kind of God have we come to worship? One who doesn't have a palace, he doesn't have any servants, he doesn't have any guards. But they've come all this way, and now they're not going to turn back. Joseph looks at this strange band of people and says, well, come in. It's the right thing to do, to open up this place to strangers. It's what we do. The guests look around at the modest house and they see coming around a corner a young girl holding the hand of a little boy, maybe 2 years old. What a head of hair on that boy. Joseph introduces his wife, Mary, to their most unexpected guests. Mary is surprised at these nighttime intruders into their house, but, well, then again, not really. I mean, hadn't some time ago an angel told her that her boy would be no ordinary child, but that he was God? No one yet had said anything to Joseph or Mary about this, so maybe it wasn't real. Maybe it was all just a dream. So they lived peacefully here in Bethlehem, Joseph trying to eke out a living by building up his carpentry business in this little town of Bethlehem. Yet she wondered, why were these Gentiles coming here to see my boy? Why not the chief priests? Why not the teachers of the law? Why not the palace guards to bring home this king to the palace which was to be his throne? Unless it wasn't. Why these men in different clothes and speaking with different accents than she had ever heard, with skin color that was new to her eyes? Why had they come to her house in Bethlehem? So she asks them, Have you come here to take my boy? No, Mary. We have come to find your child because we learned in a message from the skies that he had been born. What do you call your little boy? What is the Messiah's name? Yeshua, we call him. Jesus. Well, Mary,